All right, welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Bentude, and last week I did a 24-hour dry fast. I think it was on Wednesday. After about 20 hours, I passed out, went unconscious, and my girlfriend, Nicole, she had to take me to the hospital. They brought me back to life, and here I am recording this video. I'm just kidding. I didn't pass out. Everything was totally fine. I feel great. I felt great after. I was really happy. All is well. But I want to talk about the main reason why I did it. And it wasn't for the health benefits, although there are many health benefits to dry fasting. It was mainly, I did it mainly for the mindset and the mental toughness that I think comes with releasing the fundamental thing that keeps you alive, such as food and water. Now, before I get into the benefits, I kind of want to explain my opinion on mindset and how it can really help you in your business, in your life, period. Mindset applies to anything. Stick with me over the next 5 to 10 minutes. I think this can really improve your mindset. So the way I look at mindset is you have these two different parts inside of you. You have the animal self, it's always going to be inside of you, and then you have the higher self, always going to be inside of you. Now the operating system of these two different selves is in every single human being, and I'm just really simplifying the brain here, but the operating system of the animal self it's ruled by emotions and environmental signals. An example of this is if you're in a fight with your significant other or a friend, you're likely acting out quite irrationally and you're saying things you may not mean, and it's just because emotions are ruling your words that are coming out of your mouth, and you're not thinking before you say whatever you're saying. That's an example of the animal self. Now the higher self, on the other hand, the operating system is quite different. It's much more logical, it's much more advanced. It thinks before it speaks, it thinks before it acts and does, and this is primarily the prefrontal cortex, and this is what separates us from all the other animals in the animal kingdom. That's why humans are ruling Earth. So this is the brain in a nutshell. This is kind of how I look at it. Now, surprisingly, most people are ruled by their animal selves. You probably have some friends who have very addictive lifestyles and bad habits. Those are examples of animal self. Someone with really bad eating problems, they can't release certain foods, or they overeat constantly, or they just see a bag of chips on the table and they have to eat the bag of chips because, oh my God, there's so much pleasure that comes with eating those chips, even though they know that they shouldn't eat that bag of chips because they just ate dinner and they're already pretty full and they need to do some very important work, and the bag of chips is only going to kill their work and their productivity, etc. So an example of animal self. Now, unfortunately, most people are ruled by animal self, and even myself, I think that although majority of my time through my days is spent in my higher self, there's still glimpses of this animal self. And I really want to just figure, okay, how can I control this thing even more? And what are some things I could do to take this mindset to another level? So mindset, in my opinion, is the ability to be operating out of the higher self almost all the time. Now, some people may look at this from a spiritual standpoint. There is a definition from a spiritual standpoint of what the higher self is. If you want to look at it from a scientific standpoint, you can just think of the higher self as your prefrontal cortex, okay? But both kind of apply here. I won't get into the specifics of either. But with all that being said, I want to take my higher self to the next level. I want to be able to operate more out of the higher self. So that's why we did the 24-hour dry fast. Now, here's kind of what happened throughout the period of this dry fast. I stopped eating on 6:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. That's usually when I eat dinner. And then around 9 a.m., I started to feel hunger. Now, this is where the animal self started to come out, right? It's like, hey, you're hungry. You're usually eating at 9 a.m. This is when you eat breakfast. Like, go freaking eat your breakfast, right? But then my higher self is like, no. We're doing a 24-hour fast here. And I don't really care what you think. You might be really hungry. You might be really thirsty because you haven't even drank any water. But we are doing a 24-hour fast. So 9 a.m., I'm good. The higher self is still in control and things are good. Now 12 p.m., this is where the animal brain really starts to worry. It's like, whoa, we haven't drank any water. We haven't eaten any food. So you need to start eating food. And now I'm not joking, around 12 p.m., 18 hours into this dry fast, no food, no water, I started to look at the clock way more frequently than I normally do. And this is I noticed this because I'm from an observer standpoint, thinking of oh, this is really interesting. I keep looking at the clock. Why am I looking at the clock? Well, it's because I know that I can start drinking and eating water in about 6.5 hours. And this is why I keep looking at the clock. So the animal self starts taking over and it starts to get a grip on the higher self a little bit, not a lot. Now, around 6 p.m., 23 hours into the fast, even around 4 p.m., the animal self really took a solid grip over the higher self. I would say that my productivity levels had decreased drastically. My focus levels had decreased drastically. And I just stopped doing deep work and I went into like learning mode, and I just started reading some books and watching some videos about interviews with different entrepreneurs and whatever. So this is where the animal brain starts to really took over, but I still didn't have any food. I still didn't have any water, and I was still resisting. And then around 9:30, I actually went beyond the 24 hours. I went up to about 27 hours just to push it a little bit. I was planning on even doing 48, but I thought, okay, I've never done a dry fast before. Maybe it's best if I don't go all the way up to 48. But what kind of happened was this zombie state where, yeah, the higher self was still controlling the animal self, and I didn't eat any food or drink any water, but the higher self wasn't in its normal state, and it wasn't even really able to operate properly just because of the lack of food and the lack of water that was, you know, in my system. Now, with that being said, coming out of this, when I drank some water and I drank some food, now I recommend you do your research. Don't just go and do this because you watch this video. You have to do your research and figure out the time that you should do this, if you should do this, and how you should eat after you do a 24-hour dry fast, because you don't just go and eat a cake after doing a 24-hour dry fast. Okay, that's not what you want to do. Don't do that. Do your research before you get into this. But anyways, here's where the benefits are. I felt that I did a great job of controlling the animal self. I had never really allowed the animal self in quite some time, I would say well over 1 to 2 years, to really come out of the cage and start to try to take over. And that was good because I just felt like my mental toughness and my discipline had increased beyond where it had ever been before. Now, I do work from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and I do feel like I have a good amount of discipline. I think I can still take it to another level. But this was really helpful in realizing just how prevalent that animal self is, and just how far you can take mental toughness and discipline, because resisting the temptation to eat and drink water, I mean, that's like the fundamental things you need to survive. And this is where you really get to witness the difference between these two selves. So anyways, with that being said, benefits, in my opinion, health-wise felt great. The next day, it was a little bit weird, a little bit lightheaded, but nothing too crazy. And overall, I feel really good about it. I can't really say like specifically, oh, now I'm working 14 hours and my productivity is 10x. It's just more or less, I think that I have greater control over the animal self, and the higher self is, you know, more prevalent throughout the day at a greater percentage than it was before I did this 24-hour dry fast. And also, just from a health standpoint, it's like a system reset. It's good for your immune system. There's something called autophagy, which it kind of activates after 48 to 72 hours, not really 24 hours, but I would research it, look into it. It's like a health body reset and a mind reset. That's kind of how I look at this dry fast thing. So anyways, with that being said, I feel like this video was a giant ramble. I don't know if there's any value that's going to come out of this, but if you do a dry fast because of watching this video, make sure you do your research. Don't just go ahead and do it. And I recommend you start with at least just like 24 hours. Don't try to push it to like 72 hours your first dry fast. I think that's probably a little bit unsafe. So anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that like button if you thought this was interesting or a little bit valuable. And of course, it would make my day, it would make my year, it would make my life if you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Trying to grow this channel and help more people grow their business and their agencies, even though this video was not really about your agency. So thanks for watching this. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.